Hey, curious minds. Welcome back to Curious Chronicles, the channel where we dig up the wildest and most fascinating facts from history, science, and beyond. Today we're diving into some of the craziest, most unbelievable history facts that you've probably never heard before. So grab your popcorn because these stories are gonna blow your mind. Our journey into the bizarre begins in the year 1518 in the bustling city of Strasbourg. Imagine the narrow, cobbled streets, the aroma of baking bread, the rhythmic clip-clop of horses' hooves. Now, picture this. Amidst the everyday routines of life, a strange phenomenon takes hold. It begins subtly with a woman seized by an uncontrollable urge to dance. Days pass and more citizens fall under this inexplicable spell. Hundreds are now caught in this relentless dance marathon, their bodies driven to utter exhaustion. Physicians are baffled, some speculate it's a curse, others whisper of poisoned water. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's most perplexing mysteries. From the heart of Europe, we travel to the sprawling fields of France, where a most peculiar battle unfolded. In 1807, fresh from a triumphant military campaign, Napoleon sought a moment of respite, a touch of levity amidst the gravity of war. A rabbit hunt, it was decided, would be the perfect diversion. But as the cages are flung open, releasing hundreds of furry projectiles, something unexpected occurs. Instead of scattering in fear, the rabbits charge. Napoleon and his men, taken completely by surprise, find themselves facing an onslaught of the most unlikely enemy. The emperor's retreat is hasty and undignified. The tale of Napoleon's defeat at the paws of rabbits becomes a whispered anecdote. Our next stop takes us across the vast Atlantic Ocean to the rugged and untamed shores of North America, where a seemingly innocuous creature ignited an international incident that would be remembered for years to come. The year is 1859, a time of simmering tensions and fragile peace between the fledgling United States and the mighty British Empire, both vying for dominance in the New World. San Juan Island, a verdant and strategically significant outpost claimed by both nations, becomes the unlikely stage for a territorial dispute that would escalate beyond anyone's expectations. At the heart of this bizarre conflict lies a creature both humble and, as it turns out, surprisingly provocative. A pig whose actions would set off a chain of events leading to an international standoff. Lyman Cutler, an American farmer, discovers the pig in his potato patch, helping itself to his carefully cultivated crop, which he had worked so hard to grow. Frustrated and feeling wronged, he takes matters into his own hands, dispatching the unfortunate pig with a single decisive gunshot. The pig belonged to a British subject, and the British authorities are not about to let this perceived act of aggression go unchallenged, viewing it as an affront to their honor. Imagine the absurdity of warships bristling with cannons, soldiers ready for battle, all facing off over the death of a single pig, a situation that could have easily spiraled into full-blown war. From the shores of North America, we journey back to medieval Europe, to a time when superstition held sway and fear cast a long shadow. In the 13th century, a new threat, at least in the eyes of the most powerful man in Christendom, emerged: the cat. Pope Gregory V declared war on these feline creatures. Black cats, in particular, drew his ire. They were, he proclaimed, agents of Satan. Fueled by religious fervor and superstition, a wave of feline persecution swept across the continent. Cats, once cherished companions and skilled pest controllers, found themselves branded as enemies of God and man. With their numbers decimated, rats thrived in this new cat-free environment, and on their backs they carried fleas, tiny vectors of a deadly disease that would soon cast a dark pall over Europe, the Black Death. Our next tale takes us to the sun-baked plains of Western Australia, where a conflict of truly avian proportions unfolded. This was no ordinary skirmish, but a battle that would go down in history for its sheer absurdity. In 1932, these large, flightless birds, their numbers bolstered by a particularly bountiful breeding season, found themselves at odds with the ambitions of Australia's farmers. The emus, with their towering height and curious nature, became an unexpected menace. The emus had developed a taste for wheat, and they descended upon the farmers' fields in their thousands. Their voracious appetites and sheer numbers turned lush farmlands into barren wastelands almost overnight. The farmers, their livelihoods threatened by this avian invasion, appealed to the government for help. Desperation was etched on their faces as they sought a solution to this feathered crisis. Soldiers, veterans of the Great War, were dispatched to the Western Australian outback, armed with Lewis machine guns. These men, who had faced human adversaries in the trenches, now found themselves pitted against a different kind of foe. The emus, unimpressed by the soldiers' military credentials, proved to be surprisingly elusive adversaries. Their natural agility and speed made them difficult targets. They scattered before the chattering machine guns, their powerful legs carrying them across the terrain with astonishing speed. The emus seemed almost to mock the soldiers with their effortless evasion. The soldiers, weighed down by their equipment, struggled to keep up. The rough terrain and the emus' unexpected tactics turned the mission into a farcical chase, highlighting the absurdity of this peculiar war. Our journey through history's stranger chapters now takes us to the battlefields of World War II, where even amidst the horrors of global conflict, moments of almost comical absurdity occasionally emerged. In the skies above Japan, a truly bizarre weapon was conceived, the bat bomb. Bats, those nocturnal creatures of the night, were to be transformed into airborne incendiaries, each one carrying a tiny timed explosive device. The plan was to release these bat bombs over Japanese cities, where the bats would seek refuge in the eaves and attics of buildings. Once safely ensconced in their new roosts, the timed detonators would trigger, igniting the attached incendiaries. Tests were conducted, bats were recruited, and miniature incendiary devices were meticulously crafted. The project, however, was not without its challenges. Bats, it turns out, are notoriously difficult to weaponize. From the battlefields of the 20th century, we travel back in time to the ancient world, to the heart of the Roman Empire, a civilization renowned for its military prowess, its engineering genius, and its rather profound superstition. The Romans were not just warriors and builders, they were also deeply spiritual, believing that the gods played an active role in their daily lives. The Romans lived in a world imbued with signs and portents where the gods communicated their will through the rustling of leaves, the flight of birds, and even the appetite of chickens. Every aspect of nature was a potential message from the divine, and interpreting these signs was a crucial part of Roman life. Imagine the Roman Senate gathered in solemn assembly, debating whether to go to war against a neighboring kingdom. These were not just political decisions, but spiritual ones, heavily influenced by the omens observed by priests and augurs. The sacred chickens, those feathered oracles of Roman destiny, had been consulted. Their feed was scattered upon the ground, and their behavior would determine the will of the gods. The priests watched intently, knowing that the fate of the empire could hinge on these small creatures. On this particular day, the chickens refused to eat. The chickens had spoken. This was a bad omen, an unmistakable sign that the gods frowned upon the proposed military campaign. The refusal of the chickens to eat was seen as a direct message from the heavens. The senators, torn between their desire for conquest and their fear of divine retribution, engaged in a lively debate. The room buzzed with tension as they weighed the risks of ignoring the gods' warning against the potential rewards of victory. The decision they faced was not just a matter of strategy, but of faith and destiny. Our exploration of history's lesser-known corners takes us now to the land of pharaohs and pyramids, to ancient Egypt. At the heart of our story stands Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt. Cleopatra's story is often intertwined with the grandeur and mystique of ancient Egypt. But here's a fact that might surprise you. Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. She was of Macedonian Greek descent, a descendant of Ptolemy I Soter, one of Alexander the Great's generals. Cleopatra immersed herself in Egyptian culture, learning the language, embracing the religious traditions, and styling herself as the reincarnation of the goddess Isis. Her reign marked a time of cultural fusion, a blending of Greek and Egyptian traditions. Cleopatra's story challenges our assumptions about identity and belonging. Our journey through history's more unsettling incidents takes us back to the 20th century, to the height of the Cold War. The spectre of nuclear war loomed large, casting a long shadow over every aspect of life. But while the world watched the skies for enemy bombers, a chilling incident unfolded on American soil. It happened in 1958 in the skies above Mars Bluff, South Carolina. A B-47 bomber on a routine training mission was carrying a Mark 6 nuclear bomb. A mechanical failure occurred and the bomb unexpectedly released, plummeting towards the earth below. Thankfully, the bomb's nuclear core wasn't installed, but the conventional explosives detonated on impact, creating a crater over 70 feet deep. The incident served as a stark reminder of the ever-present danger posed by nuclear weapons. Now, our final stop on this journey through history's more unsettling tales takes us to the Netherlands. Our story takes place in 1672, a year that would forever be etched in Dutch memory as the Rampjaar, the disaster year. The Dutch Republic found itself besieged on all sides by enemies. Amidst this turmoil, Johan de Witt, the Grand Pensionary of Holland, became a target of popular anger. De Witt, a skilled politician and diplomat, found himself blamed for the nation's misfortunes. On a fateful day in August 1672, a mob stormed the Gevangenpoort, the prison where Johan de Witt and his brother Cornelis were being held. The brothers, falsely accused of treason, were dragged from their cells and into the streets. There, in full view of the public, they were subjected to a frenzy of violence. Wow, history really is stranger than fiction, isn't it? If you enjoyed these crazy history facts, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Curious Chronicles, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more fascinating facts from the past.